Welcome to I Caught It on Audio. This is Water Cooler Chat Episode 7, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Part 1.
Hello, welcome to the 64 Tacos podcast. We're doing the water cooler series about the new Star Wars show, Obi-Wan Kenobi. This series is on Disney Plus, and it just started up 2 days ago, I believe. It's a new Star Wars series about the character Obi-Wan Kenobi that takes place 10 years after the Revenge of the Sith movie. And it kind of shows the how Obi-Wan is settling into his being a hermit on Tatooine, and he's kind of working at a meatpacking plant, and he's keeping an eye on little Luke. And the Empire is dispatching Inquisitors across the galaxy to try and hunt down Jedi. And that's sort of the basic synopsis of what the series is supposed to be about. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the first episode here, which very briefly, the plot points, it starts off with Order 66, which is the Empire instructing the clone troopers to essentially massacre all Jedi that they come in contact with. And then we get to see what's going on with Obi-Wan Kenobi on Tatooine and how he's kind of seems a little bit depressed, seems a little bit kind of down, and just kind of living out his existence there, keeping an eye on Luke and trying to be under the radar. And then all of a sudden the Inquisitors show up. They're looking for a specific Jedi at a cantina. And then as the episode progresses, we get to learn a little bit about Leia as a child on I forget where she's Alderaan. That's right, yeah. And with the Organas, and then and so then she gets kidnapped, and then Obi-Wan has to make a decision about what's going on with that. Did I leave anything out? Anything important out?
I don't think so.
Okay. So I think that's the gist of the first episode. And they did episode 1 and 2 back to back, but we're only going to talk about the first episode here, and then we're going to do the second episode in another podcast episode following this one. So what are your thoughts on this first episode and how they introduced Obi-Wan and got this whole thing going?
I really liked this one.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the Inquisitors, I've never really been a huge fan of that because, you know, in the old books, it was always Vader who hunted down the last of the Jedi himself.
Okay,
but
yeah.
It kind of makes sense that you would need someone to help you.
Right.
I think my favorite part of it is how mundane and kind of awful Obi-Wan's life felt for him.
Yeah.
It's just, he's kind of like in this loop of mediocrity when he was a war hero, and he can't really do anything good because it will draw attention to himself. He's kind of got to sit back and let bad people be bad people and can't do anything about it, and even let himself be taken advantage of.
Yeah. And he's stuck, he's stuck on this sand planet, and he can't really go anywhere. He can't really converse with too many people. Whether the character is actually depressed or not, the whole situation is very depressing, right?
Yeah.
It's not happy times for Obi-Wan because of all the events that came before. And then he's kind of thrust back into the mix of things with Leia being kidnapped, and also before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about the whole Inquisitors. So they show up, and they're trying to find this Jedi that helped a local cantina operator owner at some point. We don't know anything about that situation other than there's evidence that something had happened, and the Inquisitors found out about it, and so they're going there. And so we're introduced to the 3 Inquisitors: the Grand Inquisitor, who is like the head honcho guy, and then Reva, who is also called the third sister. She's very young, she's very cocky, headstrong, and potentially dangerous. And then there's the what was the other one? The I'm blanking on his name, but he wears the hat thing.
Yeah, I don't know his name either, but he was a cool character.
Yeah. Okay. Fifth brother is what they refer to him as. And so these three Inquisitors show up and they start asking, and they eventually, find out who the Jedi guy is actually there in the cantina, and they figure out who he is by trying to murder the cantina owner with a knife, and the Jedi stops.
But that's third sister going rogue on that.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And I think that's a big part. That's going to be a big part of the show. Is Reva, the third sister, is power hungry. She's power hungry, but I think for good reasons. Now, they don't really explain a lot of this, but they allude to it. In fact, I think she may have been one of the younglings in the opening scenes with Order 66. Did you kind of get that sense as well?
Yeah.
And so she's most likely harboring some feelings about Obi-Wan or the Jedi because of what happened with Order 66 and everyone being hunted and killed, which I want to talk briefly about that, because that, to me, Order 66 has always been kind of like a painful point of the prequels and of all of the Star Wars story, just because it feels so forced. It feels so like they just kind of threw it in there to annihilate the Jedi. And I can kind of understand that from the Empire's point of view, but I just don't understand why it worked so well. I mean, it caught them off guard. There's that, but they're also supposed to be the Jedi that can, not easily be caught off guard. So I kind of feel like it was very simplistic in a plot device.
You ever watch the Clone Wars TV series?
No, I have not watched the Clone Wars.
Okay. Well, the reason Jango Fett was selected for the clones is because the Jedi can't read him easily.
Okay.
So there's why you need an army of this one guy that the clones can't. And then there's a genetic or organic chip put in their heads. Like, the clones don't even know they're going to turn on the Jedi.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's a lot more backstory to it written after the fact as to how it all went down. But I never had a problem with them turning on the Jedi. I always felt like it was this tragic thing that... Yeah. Because, I mean, Cody's all buddy-buddy with Obi-Wan, gives him back his lightsaber, and 10 seconds later, he's ordering them to fire on him.
Right.
It's like they didn't have control of their actions all of a sudden. So I always liked the Order 66 thing. Okay.
Yeah, and I don't have it. It's not like a huge problem or anything. It just felt like it was a little too easy, and the Jedi, the Jedi should have been. I don't know. It felt like it caught them off guard too much, and then it made them seem very not powerful because they just easily got slaughtered. You know what I mean?
Well, the genius of Order 66 is you keep the Jedi distracted with this war with the droids.
Right.
That's where the Jedi's main focus is, and you have Obi-Wan, or not Obi-Wan. He's in it a little bit, but mainly Mace Windu and Yoda going back and forth. Like, yeah, there's some shadow hanging around, but we don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But the Jedi's main focus was on this war,
right,
and winning this war. And the clone, I mean, this was a long play. This is like a 20-year plan that took to fruition.
Yeah.
And it could have, like, the only catch going on is that Anakin kind of fought. He betrayed the Emperor a little bit at first, or at least the Emperor's trust, because when the Emperor reveals himself, Anakin's like, "Oh, you're the Sith everyone's been looking for," and turns him in.
Right.
But then Anakin is like, "Oh, I gotta save Padme."
So, okay. So the definitely the prequels factor into this show quite a bit. There's the lead in, but then it also is there's a bit of flashbacking and background and stuff like that.
And I really loved the intro, the background they gave from the movies to get you in on it. Like, I thought that was a really well done.
Right. Yeah. Flesh out some of that backstory in case, people are watching it who aren't familiar, which is probably not going to be a ton, but but it's also nice. A lot of Star Wars fans have kind of put the prequels out of their minds because of, feeling wronged by them or something,
which is a shame because
Yeah.
I feel less wronged by them than I do the sequels.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so let's wrap this up before it gets too long. Leia, we get introduced to little Leia. Which how did you feel about that?
That surprised me.
Yeah.
It was a pleasant surprise too.
Right.
I really liked that we got to see young lady and Alderaan. Really, our first true bit of Alderaan. I mean, we got a glimpse of it at the end of
Right.
episode 3, but I'm glad we saw more of Alderaan, and she gets kidnapped at the end of it, right?
Yep. Immediately gets kidnapped, where we get introduced, and then all of a sudden it's like there are these bad people coming after her. Then at the end of episode 1, initially Obi-Wan gets the communication from Bail Organa, saying, "Hey, she's been kidnapped. We need your help." And Obi-Wan's like, "Nope, I'm not doing it." And then I think right at the end of the episode, Bail Organa shows up like in person and says, "Hey, we really need you. I know that you're here watching out for Luke, but Leia is also important as well."
Yeah, he's got a good point that both the kids are important.
Yeah. Yep, and I think that's one of the areas that the initial story kind of it seems plausible because it's like Obi-Wan gets stuck on this. Oh, I gotta watch out for Luke, but then he kind of forgets about Leia, and he's kind of just he's stuck in his loop.
It's a convenient excuse to stay in your loop.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I have to do this.
Yep.
I can't really help you because I have to do this, even though Luke's adopted dad now. His uncle doesn't want me anywhere near Luke.
Yep.
But this is what I have to do. This is my mission now.
Yeah. And so that keeps him on task, and also clouds his judgment because he feels like he's so he's commissioned to do that thing. But then he realizes, hey, Leia also needs my help, and Luke's okay. Nobody's coming after Luke. The Inquisitors are on Tatooine, and that's kind of dangerous for Luke and for the family there on the moisture farm. But he's willing to give that up and go and try and track down Leia and rescue her. And we will get into that in episode 2 of the podcast.
I caught it on audio.